This video is not one of your regulars where people come to just share house renting tips. This video has been coined from a very personal experience. For some of you that are aware of the bad renting experience that I had a few months back, I have coined this video from those experiences, and I have come up with 7 important factors that you need to put to mind when you are renting or when you are planning to rent either an apartment or a shared accommodation with anyone, especially if you're coming from overseas. So if you want to learn and not be a scapegoat like I was, sit back, relax, and learn from this video. Welcome back to my channel. If you just see my face for the first time, welcome here. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back to watch my videos. Now guys, today's matter is very serious because I had a very terrible experience. For some of you that have been following me, you know what I encountered sometime last year, and I'm not even talking too far, sometime in December. Yeah, basically just like less than 2 months ago. Most of you know what I have experienced, but if you want to understand what I'm talking about, I'll leave a link to a brief video that I did during that period, just sharing what happened during my first renting experience here in the UK, so that you can actually understand where these factors are coming from and actually take them very seriously. Now let's just quickly look at those 7 tips or 7 factors that you must consider before you start renting in the UK. Now there are many people relocating for various reasons, some coming to study, some coming to work, some coming for various reasons, and of course the most important thing that you're going to need when you come into the UK is housing. Of course, everybody knows that if you do not have a roof on your head, it's more like, in fact, you are literally lost in the society, because you need somewhere where you can go back to after, you know, a very tedious day outside. No matter the hassles you go through outside, you need somewhere where you can go back and literally relax and, you know, freshen up for the next hassle that you're going to face. And if you do not have this settled, it's going to really mess you up, and you will not really understand the depth of how messed up you will be or how messed up you will feel until you're in that situation. Trust me, I am talking from experience, because sometime in December I was literally out in the snow in tears because I was stranded, and I don't want this to be your case. So please watch this video and do not skip any part, because everything that I'll be saying here are very important for you to actually note. Now, the first thing that you need to have in mind when you are looking for an accommodation, maybe you are just, you know, still trying to relocate as an overseas person, or you're already in the UK and you're staying in a temporary accommodation for now and you are planning to move out. The first thing that you have to know is that you need to make up your mind on time on when you want to move out. Making up your mind is very important, because when you make up your mind, then you'll be channeled towards looking for a place to stay. I didn't make up my mind early enough when I tried to rent the first time, so I did it in a rush. When I just wanted to move, I just jumped up and said, okay, yes, let's do this, and I just started looking, you know, randomly through apps, and I did it in a haste, and that was the first mistake that I made. I wasn't concerned with, you know, doing so much searches. I just made up my mind in a haste and just looked for a place in a haste and then moved out. And you know, when they say this thing like, if you jump into marriage, you will jump out of marriage, that is the best sample that I like to use for this scenario, because I jumped in and I jumped out as well immediately. And it wasn't a funny experience. Yes, I can laugh about it now, but when it happened, it was not a funny experience. It was, in fact, it's like currently it has the record for the worst moment or period of my life, and I don't want this to happen to any other person. So first things you have to do is make up your mind first. So if you're coming from outside the country, 6 months at least before you move to the country, at least 6 months before you move into the country, you should have started familiarizing yourselves with the house renting apps that we have here. You should have started making calls to people that you have here already, friends, relatives, anybody that you can make inquiries from, people that you trust anyways, that would give you proper direction on how to go about renting a place in the UK. If you're already in the UK, at least 3 months to when you have decided to move, you should start looking up places as well, because some of these places that you would even find on these apps might not be available in the next 3 to 4 months or 2 to 3 months. So it gives you enough time to bargain with the agents or whoever you're going to be bargaining with and make proper arrangements. And you know that when you are ready to move, you are ready to move, and there's nothing changing your mind or nothing that is going to spoil your mind, and you've done all the necessary inquiries or necessary bits and pieces that you need to do to move into that house and have a peaceful stay. I've already mentioned this briefly in the first point. So once you've made up your mind and you've said that you want to move and you start looking for places, the next thing you want to do is get these apps, get this house renting apps. There are many. Go on your Play Store for people that use Android and go on your App Store for people that use Apple products, and start getting familiarized with this house renting apps and how they work, and start setting up your accounts, because you can do this even when you're not in the country yet. Start setting up your accounts. It helps you to get accustomed to how you're able to search for houses and how you're able to search for what you really want, and get the best deals from these apps. Now, there are many apps that you can actually look for, and sometimes when people ask me for names of some of them, yes, there are very famous ones like Zoopla, Rightmove, and if you want to share, the ones like Spare Rooms, there's Rented, there is On the Market, there are a lot of them. Or you can as much as open your phone, go to either Google and search for these apps. You will find many options. Or if you don't want to even do that, go to your App Store or your Play Store and search for house renting apps in the UK if you're outside, or if you're in UK, you can just type house renting apps and you'll see so many options for you to actually pick from. It's that simple. So yeah, second thing is to make sure you start getting those house rent apps on your phone so that you can start going through those houses. It's also linked to the first point, which is starting the process on time. For whatever reason that you'll be coming into the UK, this is going to be our third point. So whatever reason you're coming to the UK for, probably for schooling or for work, you want to make sure that wherever you are getting is very accessible to where you are going to, your end point, which could either be your school or your workplace. And even if the proximity is not that feasible, you want to make sure that you are close to an underground station, or a station at all where it can be accessible for you to get like buses, or even if you need to take the Metropolitan or you need to take the train. Because as a new person coming into a different country, most times you will not have access to a car, and you would need to get to these important places on time, and you don't want to be stranded. You don't want to have to start regretting just immediately as you are moving into the country that you've made the wrong decision, because it's not easy trying to get to your workplace when you're staying very, very far and when you're not driving as well, and then you don't even have access to a station close to you. It's very, very frustrating. So you want to make sure it's a very important factor, and that's why I put it as my number 3. Make sure it's somewhere that if there is emergency or whatever, you need to show up to school or work, you have access to do so. And now we're going to the fourth point. The fourth factor that you need to consider is that you need to be ready to compare prices, and this is why searching early or starting the process early really pays. You want to be able to compare prices of different houses. You want to be able to give yourself time to make the kind of choices that you want, go for what you want, the kind of housing that you want, prices as well, the location. And for different kinds of places that you'll be staying, different locations in the UK, houses are more expensive in some places than other places. Like when you go to places like Birmingham and the others, Wolverhampton, you would see that housing there is quite cheaper when you compare to houses in central London. The difference is nothing to write home about. So you want to make all these inquiries and make sure that you are actually making the right decision for yourself, because you do not want to be spending all your salary in your rent and then you don't even have any way of making ends meet. Okay, that's another thing that you have to know, very important. So most times people tend to go for shared accommodations, which I tried to do the first time that didn't work out for me. And let me just put this extra tip here. So if you're comfortable with something, try as much as possible to just stick with it. I have been someone that's always liked to stay on my own, mind my own space. Even before I came into the UK, I have been doing my own thing. I have been trying as much as possible to stay alone as much as I can. But then it gets to a point where housing is too expensive, especially when you come into the UK. The housing, especially in some locations which I said, and I stay in London, so housing here is very expensive. That was what prompted me to go for a shared accommodation. So I went below my standard, below what I would naturally like to do, and it really cost me a lot of problems. So yes, if you're going to do shared, it's not everybody that will be able to just jump into going for like a self-con or a one bedroom, especially when you are around London. So you want to do like shared accommodation. So if you start early, it gives you the opportunity to know who you're going to be staying with and know if it's someone that you will be compatible with, and someone that will not give you problems later on, or someone that that two of you will be able to flow properly and live together in one piece. When I was trying to rent the first time, I said I don't give problems, I'm very peaceful, I'm very quiet, I don't have any issues, so I'm not worried. I was more concerned about myself than than the other person that I was going to be staying with. And that's a mistake that I made. You have to be very cautious of who you're going to be staying with. You have to check it, because even when you're minding your business, if you're staying with a very terrible person, they would find a way to make your life miserable. Even when you are minding your business and you're doing all the right things, they will try to frustrate you one way or the other. That's how they are. So you want to be very cautious on who or with who you're staying with, or with who you will be staying with. This takes us to the very fifth point. This is a factor that I didn't know when I was trying to like rent initially. This is something that I never knew. As much as possible, and this is not to say it's not a good thing or it hasn't favored people in the past, because when I started having the issues that I was having, people started asking me, and then when I told them the situation of things, everybody that I told was like, no, you shouldn't have done that. As much as possible, avoid staying with a living landlord. Yes, you heard me. As much as possible. If there is no option, then fine, you can manage with it. But if you have an option, please and please make sure at all costs that you do not stay with a living landlord. Now, there are houses that are owned by, landlords, that landlords live out. They are live out landlords. They don't live inside the house. And a living landlord basically just means a landlord that lives within the premises. As much as possible, if you can stay away from houses like that, please go ahead and stay away from houses like that, because I've had this experience, first-hand experience, and it didn't end well for me. It was horrible. My life was a mess. I wasn't comfortable in that place. I felt as if I was staying in a hostel. It was terrible. They want to always, most of the time, stay with these ones, especially the ones that are troublesome. They want to put their heads in everything that you're doing. You cannot literally drink water and drop your cup in peace. They're always looking for one complaint or the other. They always want you to do this and do that. They want things to always go their way 100%, forgetting that you're actually paying them. Even when you're not doing anything wrong, they will spot out the littlest things to use to make as a case. So please, as much as possible. When I told people that I was with a living landlord, everybody was like, no, you shouldn't have. Nobody seems to have had a good story with living landlords. I might be wrong. If you have had a good experience with the living landlord and you are being honest, actually, you can let us know in the comment section as well. But for me, I've had a very terrible experience, and many people as well that I told this issue to, they frowned when I told them that I was, staying with a living landlord. So as much as possible, do not do a living landlord. If you can, look for a house that has a live-out landlord and you'll be fine. Having said that, the sixth factor that you should consider when looking to rent a house in the UK is to go through agencies. Now, they are your best bets. Agencies are wonderful. Once you have all their requirements, once you are able to clear all the checks, automatically they give you the place, and everything is quite professional. But most times when you go through the landlords, things are done on a more unofficial note, and then when there's a problem that comes up, you will be stranded because you will not know how to tackle it, and you will not have much evidence to tackle it with the law. And I'm saying this because I encountered the same problem as well, and that's why I said, if as much as possible, stay away from living landlords. If you must look for housing, it's better to go through agencies. They are more professional. Things go way smoothly with them, and if there's a problem, that you're communicating with the agents, and this is something that they've been doing for a very long time, so they are used to it. They know all the protocols, they know all the systems. They do things to protect themselves, the people that they are representing, which are the landlord, and also they look for measures to protect you yourself, as little as making sure that you get an insurance for yourself to cover yourself damage things inside the house before they can even give you the contract to sign. Those type of things, before they can even like give you the key or give you the contract to sign, or even sign the contract after you've signed it. Things like that, they make sure they actually look out, so they are looking out for themselves, looking out for the people that they're representing, which are the landlords, and they somehow look out for you as well. Going through agencies or the agents are way better than going through landlords directly. Last but not the least that I want to say, if you do not have any option and you have to just manage to stay with a living landlord for the meantime, make sure that you do things the official way. And by official, make sure that all the terms and conditions are stated out clearly. And if you spot out any disparities from the beginning, please make sure you speak up for yourself. Make sure as well that you sign a contract. Make sure there is a signed contract between your landlord and yourself, and make sure you read that contract and understand every single word written in there. If there are places that should not be used on the house, make sure they are clearly stated in that contract as well, so that when there's a problem, you would know what to present in your favor, and then you'll know how to take up the case legally if you need to. Now, I made that terrible mistake. I got deceived and I got lured, and I fell for the fact that this person was acting very nice towards me when I went there. I still came with that my Nigerian Nigerian mentality where we're just free with each other most times. Things just go freely in our country. We don't do like so much protocols in Nigeria, and that's why most things just work there like that, you know. So I went in with that mentality, you know, so I didn't stress for a contract. I felt like I didn't have any problem. I know I was not going to cause any trouble. So I'm like, well, if she's not giving me a contract, then fine. But I didn't know that this was this person's tactics, so that in case she wants to just wake up one morning and say leave my house, she'll be free to, without whatever flimsy reason she has to present, she'll be free to do it, and I wouldn't have, you know, any say in it because there was no contract signed, you know. So it's very important, if eventually you have to stay with a living landlord, make sure, in fact, whoever you end up staying with, make sure there's a signed contract. But then if you go through agents or agencies, you'd always get a contract even before you move into the house. But then with landlords, living landlords, sometimes most of them are very tricky, they're very corny, and they might not want to give you a contract when you go in, or they might do a contract, and if you don't read it carefully, you would sign something that you're not supposed to sign, and eventually they'll use it against you in the future. So you need to look out for yourselves. This person that I was with tried to exploit me because she felt like I was new in the system and I hadn't stayed so long, and she saw it as an avenue to, you know, exploit me, and she was actually winning. But eventually God helped me, God saw me through, and you know, it became a thing of the past. Honestly, I didn't feel like I rented an apartment. I just felt like I was in a hostel for some time. That's how I felt during that period, and it was just a very unfortunate incident that I do not want to happen to anybody, even if it's someone I do not know. And that's why I'm making this video, so that you would put these 7 factors. There are many other factors, trust me, but if I start going into all of them, we will not finish this video. So I have sat down and I coined out these 7 most important factors that you must have. These are the first things that you should have at the back of your mind while you are looking for a house to rent in the UK. And if you want me to talk about more tips or more factors as well that you should look out for, because after this experience it opened my eyes to a lot of things that I should look out for, and a lot of things that I should know when I'm renting, or when I recently move into a place, or you know, before I even move into the place, or questions that I should ask when I go to view a place. So if you want to actually know more about this, you can let me know in the comment section, and I will be happy to do a part 2 of this video to give you more information on what you need to know. And on that note, I'll be ending this video here. And if you've enjoyed this video and you've learned one thing or the other, please make sure you subscribe, as I'll be putting out more important videos where I share good information that would benefit you and others. So subscribe and press that notification button so that you know when I bring up new videos like this. And also like this video as well, because the more you like it, the more YouTube shows this video to people that really need it. And if you know people as well that this video will benefit, you can as well share this video so that they can learn and not be scapegoats as I was. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care. Bye.